Hi and welcome to the webinar, Making Your Mark in Times of Challenge. I'm Julie Hyde and I'll be taking you through the webinar today. What we're going to be looking at are some key strategies that you can implement and some quick questions that you need to ask yourself to enable you to transition into the next phase of this challenging time really effectively. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now and we will get started. All right. So, needless to say, our world as we knew it has changed. COVID-19 has turned our lives upside down at speed. Within a couple of weeks, many of us were forced to work from home, doors closed on many businesses, some temporarily, some for good. People were stood down and the lines at Centrelink were incredibly long. This is something that we haven't seen in our lifetime. Roads were really quiet and there was a really eerie silence that those of us in the city area had not heard before, other than maybe on Christmas Day, but there was certainly no celebrating. Our lives and livelihoods were being threatened by this pandemic, and that caused a lot of fear and anxiety and disbelief in terms of what was happening. And of course, this was exacerbated by the media and their constant and never-ending fear campaign, which they can be relied upon for. Our lives as we knew it were gone. Many were feeling a deep sense of shock and experienced a loss of control and were reacting to what was happening. And once we could sit still for a minute and reflect on what the hell was going on, we felt a lot of grief also. When you reflect on how the year started, we started this year of 2020, particularly in Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia, with bushfires ravaging a lot of our states. And, a lot of us felt a lot of grief, even thinking that we could celebrate New Year's Eve and welcoming in the new year when we're seeing how the lives of so many within our community have been impacted so dreadfully. So we started the year off with a lot of, with a feeling of overwhelm and a sense of not being able to control that situation and a sense of helplessness because we really couldn't do anything other than perhaps donate to help the people that were affected. And then, not even 2 months later, we really understood the impact of this COVID-19, which has changed everyone's lives, really dramatically. And I heard Julia Gillard, who's the chair of Beyond Blue, speak recently, and she was sharing how a lot of people are going to the Beyond Blue resource at the moment because they're feeling this real sense of exhaustion. Like people are just absolutely exhausted, even though they're not rushing around here and there. Now, because of the drain on mental health is what we're going to go through today. But this feeling of exhaustion is absolutely real. When you think about it, in the olden days, which was like 2 months ago, we were able to go out and socialize, have fun, hug and kiss our friends and loved ones, eat out when we felt like it, get a change of scenery, fly overseas and experience new cultures. We were entertained, we were busy, we had purpose, we had space from those we lived with, and we had a sense of certainty and control in what we were doing. We could escape on the weekends and get away from the rat race to allow ourselves to breathe. We had choice and we had routines, for good or bad, and people are grieving their life that they had. However, we were also really unhappy. We were overwhelmed, we were exhausted, we were overworked, we were busy, we were frantic, we were crazy busy. We were also incredibly unproductive, even though we had all of these time management resources at our fingertips. We were completely disconnected, even though technology has grown rapidly in the last 10 years. And we complained about the life that we had. The smartphones that we have were not making us any smarter. In fact, they were making us dumber. And we wish for more time. We wish for more time to look after ourselves better, to spend more time with the kids, to work from home more. to invest in a lot more self-care, to have a lot more me time, and the list goes on. Well, guess what? You've got it now. But my question to you is the want and the wish for the life that was just because it's what you knew, or do you really miss it, and why? So that question again, is the want and the wish for the life that was just because it's what you knew, or do you really miss it, and why? You know, it's interesting talking to you about something that I'm going through with you. And you've heard it before, you know, we're all going through this together. And yes, we are. We don't have a choice. But I think it's a much more powerful thing to be doing rather than hoping and wishing for things to return to normal, whatever that looks like, is to be learning from this situation. We've always been forced to reflect on life and given the opportunity to make some educated decisions to reshape it for the better if you choose to. It would almost be criminal not to learn from something as big as this crisis. We've been forced into a classroom and we have a choice as to what kind of student we will be. One that shows up because they have to and, you know, will tick the box. One that can do better if they applied themselves. One that is easily distracted. One that wags and does what they want to do with the cool kids, or one that is hungry to learn. And to enable ourselves to be better from this experience, we need to look deeply into what we are learning. Because the temptation is to hurry past a point of loss or trauma and just get on with things. We like comfort. We like freedom of choice. Humans are fickle, forgetful creatures that can be quite short-sighted and impatient, and generally focused on instant gratification or the closest thing possible. So Dr. Adam Fraser, who is he's a peak performance researcher, and he wrote a book called Strive. And he also has a really fantastic TED Talk, which is about the third space, which I definitely encourage you to have a look at. Now, he wrote a fantastic piece a couple of weeks ago about don't you dare pivot. And what Dr. Fraser is talking about is there's so much out there about pivoting and leaving the competition behind in a time of crisis, that his fear is that we're going to respond to this crisis in a superficial and clinical way rather than learning from it. And he goes on to say that COVID-19 is a gift. It's a shitty gift that we would re-gift in a heartbeat, but nonetheless, it's an opportunity to fundamentally shift the way we work and connect. And I love the quote that I've captured on the screen here for you, which is what I'm observing currently, is that people are fighting for and grieving a world that made them freaking miserable. During this crisis, don't just pivot, rather take the time to evolve the way you are living your life in a more meaningful and connected way. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So rather than trying to move on quickly, we need to sit with the discomfort of this and learn from it. And I think this is really powerful to enable us to move forward in a really smart way. And in order to do this, we need to understand and be conscious of what we are learning from this situation and what we are noticing about ourselves. You know, skies are blue. We can see the top of the Himalayas. The water is clear in Venice. Pollution is cleared in China. The environmental effects of shutting down industry is clear. It's been 2 months now, and my thoughts have definitely shifted towards, you know, what am I missing and what am I enjoying about this situation that I've never had to experience before. It's really making me question what was working in my life pre-COVID and how do I want my life to be after COVID. And when I look at my social calendar and it's blank, it's like, do I find this confronting or do I find it actually freeing? Like I get a real sense of freedom from it. So what I've been hearing are some really wonderful stories from people who are getting back in touch with their priorities and what is really important to them. So parents are connecting with their kids, families are eating together and playing together, and partners are reconnecting and doing things that they like to do together. You know, people are catching up with friends more, particularly with friends interstate, because all of a sudden we've realised we've got this virtual platform that we can use to catch up, not just in times of pandemic, but also outside of that. So they're building stronger relationships with their interstate friends and family. Being more efficient with time, you know, people are appreciating not rushing around and appreciating the time that they have. People are baking and doing things around the house that they never had the time or energy for. And with the power of space and less pressure to do, people are starting to learn a bit more about themselves as well. And people are investing more time in self-care. They're doing yoga online, they're doing meditation, you know, online, or Pilates. But they're really spending some good quality time on them. And of course, on the flip side, there's always the flip side. And what I've noticed is badge of honor busy has morphed into something new. What I'm noticing online, particularly in the social media space, is how many people feel like they have to put out there how many hours they're spending online at the moment in terms of recreating something or innovating, whatever that looks like for them. And I actually saw a story where someone shared that they had been looking at their computer screen for so long that they nearly went blind. Now, I'm good with people sharing stories and learnings if it's a story about learning. But what this person was sharing the story about was she was trying to validate her, basically, because no one can see her, I'm assuming that she's trying to validate the effort that she's putting in and is wanting external recognition for it. So she wasn't saying, hey, don't do this because this is what happened to me and this is what I've put in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again. It was a story about how she nearly went blind looking at the screen, and then, you know, but has she actually reduced the time looking at the screen? Not really, but she'll do her best. I really find that quite disturbing in terms of why someone would do that to themselves and then share a story to try and encourage others to do the same. So the question for you is, how are you responding? I really love this image. I don't know where this came from or who initially shared it, but I have seen it in the social media space. But it's about who do you choose to be during the COVID-19. And it goes through 3 phases. And the first is where people choose to live in the fear zone and they panic buy, as we've seen. They get irritated really easily. They absolutely scroll through everything they possibly can on all of the news sites or social media about COVID-19 and share it. They act like a victim and want to blame others. They hoard, as we talked about, but they live in fear and react to that fear. And then there's those who live in the learning zone. You know, they start to let go of trying to control this situation, which of course they can't. A lot of people were self-medicating in the early stages. That may have been with alcohol. They were drinking more or having more comfort food, you know, takeaway food. So people start learning in terms of how that makes them feel and start making better decisions around that. They start planning and enabling themselves to make better use of the time that they have. They recognise that everyone's doing their best and it's probably best not to judge others. And they also look for opportunities at this time. And then we move into the growth zone, which is what we're going to be talking about doing. And that's where, you know, people think about others and how they can be of help to them. They live for the now, understanding that they have a clear picture of what's next. And they understand that they're not in a waiting room. They're not in jail. They're not waiting for this to be over. It's never going to be over. We're never going to be without this now, but we need to understand how to transition into that next phase. We need to be really appreciative and be grateful. This is really important because, you know, a health pandemic is going to show you the value of your health. And without your health, you have nothing. So it's really important to be grateful for what we have. And it's amazing how being grateful and that sense of gratitude really does improve your mental health and enable you to have a better mindset. So I think that's a really powerful image to keep in mind in terms of understanding what zone that you're in at the moment and where you would prefer to operate. Because what I'm observing in people at the moment is there are those who are sitting back, observing and waiting for things to improve. They're worried about what this means to their career or to their business. They're worried about what it means to their opportunities or their pipeline, but they're not necessarily moving forward. They're sort of wishing and hoping that things will be okay, which I'm not sure is a good strategy for them right now. And then there are those who have moved into the old style used car salesman model of selling. They are in your face. They are loud, provocative, and completely repelling, in my opinion. And then there are those who are sitting somewhere in the middle, who are thinking differently, who have responded in a way that is serving them and others and positioning themselves effectively for when we transition into the next phase of this. I hate using the words, moving into the new normal, because what does that even mean? So I think the new phase is a lot more enabling. So my question to you is, when you spread your wings again, who do you choose to be? This virus can be a catalyst for change, but it's wholly up to you. I liken this to the life cycle of a butterfly, and we're in the cocoon and changing shape and getting ready to break free with beautiful colours and the ability to fly. The key to the butterfly being able to fly is how much it struggles to get out of the cocoon. So the more it struggles, the stronger its wings. And if it doesn't struggle, it can't fly. It actually can't get out of that cocoon easily. And it will drag its wings around behind it. So it will be your ability to sit with the uncomfortableness and the uncertainty of it all to strengthen your resilience and your resolve, and to be able to fly into the next phase, to be able to have really strong wings like these beautiful butterflies. It will be the power of learning that will enable us to think differently, to be smarter and respond in a way that will serve us. We've all come through times of adversity and challenge before, and we can do it again. We know that. So who do you choose to be? Who is going to be Jenny or Jackie or Dallas version 2 or post-COVID? What are you choosing for yourself? Because we now have the opportunity to live in a brave new world. There is space available for those who choose to embrace it. We have the opportunity to recreate a life that serves us, one that is fulfilling and aligned to our values and priorities, not just something that we wish for. We can own our lives if we choose to. It's a world where courage resides, where confidence can be found and resilience is created. It's a world where we can own our space and step up and shine in a way that's authentic to you. It's a world that we can step forward into and do the things that we've been holding ourselves back from. Ask the questions, put yourself out there, advocate for yourself, set the standard for how you will be treated. It's the chance to step up and out of your comfort zone and look for the positives of doing all the things that you've wanted to do rather than agonizing over the risk. It's time to quieten the voice that is holding you back. And you have the perfect opportunity to get clear on this now and understand what you need to stop, start, change, and continue now to use your time wisely. So ask yourself this question. If you weren't afraid of, insert blank here, whatever you're afraid of, what would you do? If you had the confidence that you needed, what would you do? This is about having the awareness of your current thoughts and habits. And remember, of course, that habits can be broken, because we can often just go through life doing as we do because it's what we know. And importantly, it's really important to know that in times of challenge that we can have a tendency to revert back to what we know. And this is something to be very aware of as you move forward. It's like just stepping back and doing the things that we're comfortable with rather than the things that are going to serve us. But the one thing we have control of, the only thing, is you and how you respond, how you are, the choices that you make, and if you take responsibility and ownership for your life or not. So what's going to be different for you? What is your new story going to be? And this is where the power of knowledge comes into play. The first step is to be able to change is having the awareness around what we want to change. And the second step is the ownership of that. We need to know what must change for us. So what have you learnt, or what are you learning or noticing about you? And what do you want to change? You have the opportunity now to jump in and embrace this brave new world of you. And you have the opportunity to paint a different canvas for your life. So how do you choose to create it? What colours will you use? What do you want to see? What do you want to feel? What do you want to hear? How do you want to experience it? This is super exciting for all of us right now. We have created the life that we had post-COVID. So we have the power to change it post-COVID. So think about that for a second. We've created the life that we had pre-COVID, and we can create the life that we want post-COVID. So I've got a big question for you. It's, what are the behaviours that you want to be known for? So who do you choose to be? This is a really powerful question to think about and respond to, and a massive opportunity for all of us right now, no matter what your circumstance. As I've covered, we're all responding and reacting to this in very different ways, and no doubt you understand that perception is your reality. So this is personal branding 101. So how you are communicating, how you're being creates a perception with others. So this is about what you're doing and what you're not doing. So what do you want to be known for right now? I am certainly clear on this for me and have put actions in place with an aim to achieve it. So where is your opportunity? As I said, there's many opportunities right now. There are opportunities in your workplace. People are working remotely now. So how can you get known for what you want to be known for? And how can you support others? This is a great time to be building your brand, even though you're out of the office and out of the watchful eye of people. People are still noticing and still hearing what you're doing. So you can step up as a leader regardless of whether you have a leadership title or not. Everyone can be a leader of self. So really ask yourself, how can you be the best leader of self that you can possibly be and make a difference for your own self, for your career, and for others? There's also opportunity with your clients and marketplace. You know, if your business is impacted, how are you thinking differently? How can you add more value to your clients? How can you be agile and adapt to what's happening right now and enable you to, in a way that's going to enable you to add a lot of value to your clients and be top of mind for them right now? For your community, how can you get out there and support your community that is struggling right now? How can you show people you care? Out in your community, there's a lot of small business and people that are struggling right now. How can you make a difference? With your network, how can you reach out and connect with those who are struggling or build stronger relationships with people? with your life? How can you be more present to those most important to you? Your presence is the biggest gift that you can give to anyone. And as a leader, how can you be remembered in times of challenge? How can you make a difference to your team who are fearful, uncertain, and anxious right now? How can you engage and connect on a deep level with your team? This is a massive opportunity for leaders and a really great opportunity to build stronger connections with your team and memorable ones. This is an opportunity for people to talk about you in the future in a really positive way. The opportunities are limitless right now. So how do you want to be remembered at this time? So in order to be able to understand what's working and what's not, and to understand the mark that you want to make and where our opportunity is, there are two things we simply must do. These are not new things. They are not revolutionary, but they are life-changing. And the first is, how will you fill your own cup? Will this be a similar story to many people's New Year's resolutions? Or are you absolutely serious about prioritizing this? The number of people who make New Year's resolutions about how much more they're going to exercise, how much better they're going to support their health, how much more they're going to do things that will serve them in terms of care and align themselves back to their values. And by 31st of January each year, that's blown out of the water. And they have been swept up and busy and are falling in line with the expectations that everyone else has of them and making excuses for all of the reasons why they can't possibly do what they wanted to do at the start of the year. So is this going to be a different time for you? Because this is super important right now. And it's super important because of the impact to our mental health, and which has been significant. And the reason is all of this change has happened so quickly and threatened our fundamental human needs that it has stretched our bandwidth beyond belief and put a lot of strain on us mentally. Hence the feelings of exhaustion together with the heightened levels of anxiety. This exhaustion is real. This drain on our mental health is huge. And we're going to be experiencing the effects of this pandemic for a long time to come. We don't even understand the real impact of this economically yet and what it means. And if you are in a position of leadership, this is something that you are going to need to get really good at managing, because the experts are warning that the next pandemic is going to be one of a decline in mental health. Engagement levels within your team are going to decline, and there's going to be a loss of connection amongst people. So this is a massive impact to the power within your business, which is your people. So this is something you really need to be on top of. So aside from all of that though, this affects us all. And we have to understand that in order to be the best possible version of you that you can be, to enable you to function and deal with this as best you can and to make empowering decisions, it's to know how to fill your own cup first and how to make it a priority for real. No more excuses. I'm so sick of hearing all of the excuses. We either own it or we don't. And this is the same. You want to use the analogy of the oxygen mask falling from above you when you set it in a plane during the security demonstration, or when there is a bit of a drama on the plane. The masks will drop down. You're instructed to fit your mask first before you help others, because if you run out of oxygen, you're of absolutely no use to anyone else. Same deal with making sure that you are ensuring that you are energized, that you are supported first before you can help anyone else. The second is creating space. Again, this is really critical at this time because it is particularly crowded and noisy, and there's so much opinion around. And in space, creating space, this is where your power lies. Space is what you need to sit and learn from what you were going through. Space is what you need to think and reflect about how you're being and how you are responding. Space is what you need to think about how you have been holding yourself back and how you want to be remembered and the behaviours that you want to be remembered for. Research has shown that the more that people allow themselves time to think, it enables more empowered and educated decision rather than making just reactionary decisions which often don't serve you. So allowing yourself space is how you will increase your self-awareness. And self-awareness is critical to your success now and always. The higher the level of your self-awareness, the more successful you will be. So what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your values. And if you're highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how others perceive you. So can you understand how powerful this is, especially at this time and always? But it also enables you to set the standard for how others treat you and how you expect to be treated. So this is all about self-respect. Rachel Robertson, who was a guest on my podcast recently, she has written a book, Leading on the Edge, which is a fantastic resource for leaders right now. Rachel led the 58th expedition to Antarctica, the most isolated and harshest environment on Earth, where she spent a year. Now, she didn't have the luxury of a support crew around her. She had her team, but there wasn't the luxury of peer-to-peer around her. Technology was a challenge. She couldn't pick up the phone to a peer if she had a problem to work it through. She simply had to work it through herself. Her saving grace, the thing that kept her sane, enabled her to grow as a leader, to make sense of things, to make strong decisions, and to be an inspiring leader, was to allow herself the space to think. And she did this by recording her thoughts in a journal as well. And it's really important to be creating yourself a space, in a quiet space, gadget-free, to just be. So what Rachel was able to do by creating her self space was to sort through what was going on. It enabled her to grow as a leader. It enabled her to increase her self-awareness, and it enabled her to sort through issues that were happening. Because when you get it out of your head and down on paper, it's really powerful. So by Rachel creating herself that space and using the power of journaling, it really enabled her to be the best leader that she can be. And she does talk about that a lot in her book. So if you choose to do this, if you choose to allow yourself that time to think and feel and connect, you will understand the power in it. And it's at this time, and it's so crowded, it's so noisy, and it's anxious, that you need the power of space to enable you to navigate through what is happening for you right now and for your future. And you need to understand what that is for you. So we all have a choice now. We all have a choice in what we're going to do and how we're going to make our mark in this very challenging and crazy time. We all have the opportunity to make a difference to those around us and be remembered for the right reasons. You can choose to learn from this and build strength and courage and resilience from it, or you can choose to sidestep it. Whatever you do, own it. So let's stop the blame game. Let's stop making excuses. I'm so sick of hearing excuses. You will either do it or you won't. But as I say, just own it. Just take that responsibility for what you're doing with your own life. So are you going to go through the red door? And what does that mean for you? Or are you going to go through the yellow door? And what does that mean for you? So now it's over to you. Thank you for being part of today. And I hope I have provided you with lots of value and lots to think about. And I look forward to seeing and hearing about the mark that you will make for yourselves in this challenging time. I look forward to seeing you fly and to be known for what you want to be known for. During your personal and professional life, the way you choose for it to be empowered and enabled, and most of all, to be happy and fulfilled. And my God, doesn't that just sound so amazing? Now, in the spirit of support, I have an offer for you. One thing I know to be true is that change can be powerful and exciting and also challenging. So if any of this has resonated with you and you would like support to get clarity and implement your actions, I'm offering a mini mentor Making Your Mark program, because I really want to support you in doing this. So if you've been thinking, yeah, that sounds great, that sounds fantastic, but, or I can't, what will people think, or I just don't know, you know, the good old yeah buts, what ifs, that help us justify why we can't change, then this is for you. It's 3 sessions, it's 30 minutes virtually. We go deep and get this happening for you and understand how you can do this really authentically. So I've got 5 spots available for that. And if you take up the offer today, the investment is $275 plus GST. And that is a steal if you understand the outcome that you will receive for investing this time into you. And after that, it increases to $375 plus GST. So you save $100. So the power of this is a sounding board and someone to help, to hold you accountable to doing this rather than just thinking about it. So it's super helpful to sort through what you are thinking right now. So all you need to do is send me an email, julie@juliehyde.com.au. The email's on the screen there. And simply say I'm in the subject line and I'll be in contact. So once again, thank you so much for investing time into you today and for choosing to hear how you can make your mark in times of challenge. And I really look forward to seeing what you create as we transition into our next phase. So thank you.